Hey class, sorry I can't be with you here for the next couple of weeks. I'll be on vacation with my family, and I know it's tough, but someone's got to do it. So anyway, I hope you have a great time these next 2 weeks, and these are going to be important 2 weeks. And so I appreciate Micah and Catherine for being there to facilitate the class, and they're both well qualified to lead the class because both of them are actively engaged in conversations and meaningful conversations with people and with the outside world, Christian world, church world, and so both of them are actively engaged in that direction and have a lot to offer you. So you're going to be in good hands. You can definitely glean a lot from them, not only in terms of their experience, but also in terms of their heart and their perspective as to why they do what they do. So please take advantage of that. We spent the summer discussing the importance and value of learning the ability to engage with others in a meaningful way, and in a way that represents the Lord accurately and honors the other people that you're engaging with authentically. And so we've also discussed some basic things and basic approaches to keep in mind when you're engaging with other people. Like number one, we've always emphasized that everyone is invaluable. Every person you ever meet with is made in God's image and therefore carries inherent dignity, inherent worth, and inherent value, and that always has to be kept in our minds. And number two, we've also discussed the role of the invitation and using questions in such a way as to extend an invitation into further conversation. And so, using questions that are more open-ended and invite people into an understanding that you want to engage more deeply with them. Number three, we've also discussed inspiration, and that is finding points of contact, finding mutual points of interest, such that you can kind of land where they are and then start discussing things or bringing things up in a manner such that their desire is to continue to engage in conversation with you because you've taken that step to land where they are and to meet them where they're at, and then to show interest in those areas as well. And then lastly, we've talked about intent and making sure that we try to discern both their intent in the conversation as well as discerning our own motives and intents as well, and then responding and adjusting accordingly as the conversation goes, and remembering that intent is prior to content. Okay, so we've had some in-class time practicing these opportunities and these strategies, if you will, over a variety of topics and over a few weeks that have both been helpful and, yes, sometimes awkward. But that's okay because it's better to be awkward in class and get that kind of out of the way rather than awkward in your live conversations with them. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to narrow the focus a little bit, and we're going to begin setting our sights on learning how to talk about life and about God in a way that feels comfortable and or at least working towards feeling comfortable and feeling interesting and enjoyable, and conversations that actually are enjoyed by both parties, even if and when you believe in different things. And that's really kind of the challenge here. And I'd say the Christian church, this is kind of our challenge, to be able to engage with the outside world, especially in such a hot political environment as we have these days, and engage with them in a way that's winsome, that's attractive, that's enjoyable, meaningful, but yet acknowledging that we can have different points of thought, different viewpoints, and start working on them and show ourselves amenable to working on fine-tuning those points of conversation together in a way that is respectful and honoring to one another. And so discussions of this nature requires that we make every effort to show respect and empathy to every person. It's not always easy, particularly with those you know very well, but it must be done. And so when we get into conversations about life and about God, we're delving into people's worldviews. And when you're delving into a worldview, you're delving into a kind of an important core of who they are, because that's the way they think and see themselves. What is a worldview anyway? Worldview is like a pair of glasses. It's the basic set of assumptions that shape how we see the world around us, and we all have them. We all have them. And so, with the help of renowned apologist Ravi Zacharias and his team and ministry at RZIM, I found that there are 4 basic questions to life that everybody needs to answer, and that are good pillars around which we can direct our conversation, or at least hover around. Regardless of your belief or lack of belief, these are points of conversation that everybody needs to have an answer or some thought of. Okay, and so these are great pillars for us to remember. And for some, you can be direct and start heading right into the pillars themselves. And for others, you're going to have that conversation in a more peripheral way, and then kind of wind your way to the center and move closer towards it. And so you'll have to use your skill and wisdom in discerning how and when to go there. But the 4 basic questions in life that everyone needs to answer are these: origin, where do we come from? Meaning, what's our purpose in life? Why are we significant? Morality, how do we know and differentiate between right and wrong? And destiny, where do we go from here? What happens after we die? And so those are 4 basic questions of life that I use and keep in my head all the time. And what I find is that every conversation I have actually can be found to be rooted or have an association with or a link to one of these 4 major questions in life. And so we're kind of starting to tread on the world of apologetics, and embarking towards these conversations. There are conversations that we call apologetic conversations. When I say apologetic, I don't mean saying you're sorry every time you converse with someone. It doesn't mean that. But the Greek word for apologetics is apologia, which literally means to give a reason or have an answer. And it just is it's aligned with like defending, but not always in a formal debate mode, but even giving a reason or a defense or as to why you live the way you do, why you make the choices you make, and it can be amiable. It doesn't have to be like confrontational, and doesn't have to be both sides on opposite sides of the table, but it can be, thought-provoking and engaging and hearty and wholesome. Okay, and when you're dealing with apologetics, you're dealing with 2 fundamental issues. The first being the realm of giving answers, meaningful answers to the questions that people ask. 1 Peter 3:15 and 16 says this: "But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts." Sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts. Always being ready to give a reason for the hope that you have to anyone who asks you, and to do it with gentleness and with respect. The verse has the presumption and the assumption that we are living lives in such a way that it engenders conversation, that people are desirous to ask you why you live the way you do, why you make the decisions the way you make them, why you choose what you choose, that our lives are some sort of inspiration to others that invite that conversation. And secondly, first being giving meaningful answers to the questions that people have, but secondly, the role of all apologetics is clarifying truth claims. And I don't know if you realize this, but every statement we make is a claim of truth. Every statement, it's a claim of truth. And therefore, if that's true, then everyone is making truth claims every time they speak. They're making some sort of claim of truth. And so every truth claim has some link, even if distant, to one or more of those pillars that I told you: origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. And so learning how to work with these truth claims and tying them to these 4 basic pillars takes skill, it takes wisdom, takes discernment, and it takes practice. And so that's kind of what we're going to try to start embarking towards over the next few weeks before the summer ends, which will be the end of August. Okay, so I'm going to have Micah and Catherine, add any other thoughts that they might have, and then start sending you into small groups where they'll give you the questions that we're going to answer as we start to tiptoe into this newer territory. Okay, so I hope it goes well, and I'll be praying for you. Thanks a lot, guys.